Well, what fun you'd have. I wish I could run off too, said Jo, forgetting her part of mental and lively visions of martial life, or marital life. I think it's martial life. Well, I think I need to see this from the beginning. At the capital. Come on then, why not? You go and surprise your father, and I'll stir up old Brooke. It would be a glorious joke. Let's do it, Jo. We'll leave a letter saying we are all right and trot off at once. I've got money enough. It will do you good and be no harm as you go to your father. For a moment, Jo looked as if she would agree. Wild as the plan was, it just suited her. She was tired of care and confinement, longed for change, and thoughts of her father blended temptingly with the novel charms of camps and hospitals. Liberty and fun. Her eyes kindled as they turned wistfully toward the window, but they fell on the old house opposite, and she shook her head with sorrowful decision. If I was a boy, we'd run away together and have a capital time. But as I'm a miserable girl, I must be proper and stop at home. Don't tempt me, Teddy. It is a crazy plan. That's the fun of it, began Laurie, who had got a willful fit on him and was possessed to break out of bounds in some way. Hold your tongue, cried Jo, covering her ears. Prunes and prisms, I think, are my doom, and I may as well make up my mind to it. I came here to moralize, not to hear about things that make me skip to think of. I know, Meg, would wet blanket such a proposal, but I thought you had more spirit, began Laurie insinuatingly. Insinuatingly. Oh, insinuatingly from insinuating. Insinuatingly. Bad boy, be quiet. Sit down and think of your own sense. Don't go making me add to mine. If I got Grandma to apologize for the shaking, will give up running away? Asked Jo seriously. Yes, but won't do it, answered Laurie, who wished to make up but felt that his outraged dignity must be appeased first. If I can manage the young one, I can the old one, muttered Jo, as she walked away, leaving Laurie bent over a railroad map with his head propped up on both hands. Come on. And Mr. Lawrence's gruff voice sounded gruffer than ever as Jo tapped at his door. It is only me, sir. Come to return a book, she said bluntly as she entered. Want any more? Asked the old gentleman, looking grim and vexed, but trying not to show it. Yes, please. I like old Sam so well. I think I'll try the second volume, returned Jo, hoping to propitiate him by accepting a second dose of Boswell's Johnson, as he had recommended that lively work. The shaggy eyebrows unbent a little as he rolled the steps toward the shelf where the Johnsonian literature was placed, Joe skipped up and sitting on the top step, affected to be searching for her book, but was really wondering how best to introduce the dangerous object of her visit. Mr. Lawrence seemed to suspect that something was brewing in her mind, for after taking several brisk turns about the room, he faced around on her, speaking so abruptly that Russell's tumbled face downward on the floor. What has that boy been about? Don't try to shield him. I know he has been in mischievous by the way he acted when he came home. I can't get a word from him. And when I threatened to shake the truth out of him, he bolted upstairs and locked himself into his room. He did do wrong, but we forgave him, and all promised not to say a word to anyone, began Joe reluctantly. That won't do. He shall not shelter himself behind a promise from you, soft-hearted girls. If he's done anything amiss, he shall confess, beg pardon, and be punished. Out with it. Out with it, Joe. I won't be kept in the dark. Mr. Lawrence looked so alarming and spoke so sharply that Joe would gladly have run away if she could, but she was perched aloft on the steps, and he stood at the foot, a lion in the path. So she had to stay and brave it out. Indeed, sir, I cannot tell. Mother forbade it. Laurie has confessed, asked pardon, and been punished quite enough. We don't keep silence to shield him, but someone else, and it will make more terrible if you interfere. Please don't. It was partly my fault, but it is all right now. So let's forget it and talk about the Rumbler or something pleasant. Hang the Rumbler. Come down and give me your word that this scarum boy of mine hasn't done anything ungrateful or impertinent. If he has, after all your kindness to him, I'll thrash him with my own hands. The threat sounded awful, but did not alarm Joe, for she knew the irascible old gentleman would never lift a finger against his grandson, whatever he might say to the contrary. She obediently descended and made as light of the prank as she could without betraying Meg or forgetting the truth. Well, if the boy held his tongue because he promised and not from obstinacy, I'll forgive him. He is a stubborn fellow and hard to manage, said Mr. Lawrence, rubbing up his hair till it looked as if he had been out in a gale, and something the frown from his brow with an air of relief. So am I, but a kind word will govern me when all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't, said Joe, trying to say a kind word for her friend, who seemed to get out of one scrape only to fall into another. You think I'm not kind to him, hey? Was that a sharp answer? Oh dear, no, sir. You are rather too kind sometimes, and then, just a trifle, hasty when he tries your patience. Don't you think you are? Joe was determined to have it out now and tried to look quite placid, though she quacked a little after her bold speech. To her great relief and surprise, the old gentleman only threw his spectacles into the table with a rattle and exclaimed frankly, "You're right, girl. I am. I love the boy, but he tries my patience past bearing, and I don't know how it will end if we go on so. I'll tell you. He ran away." Jo was sorry for that speech the minute it was made. She meant to warn him that Laurie would not bear much restraint and hoped he would be more forbearing with the lad. Mr. Lawrence's ruddy face changed suddenly, and he sat down with a troubled glance at the picture of a handsome man which hung over his table. It was Laurie's father, who had run away in his youth and married against the imperious old man's will. Jo fancied he remembered and regretted the past, and she wished she had held her tongue. He won't do it unless he is very much worried, and only threatens it sometimes. Times when he gets tired of studying. I often think I should like to, especially since my hair was cut. So if you ever miss us, you may advertise for 2 boys and look among the ships bound for India. She laughed as she spoke, and Mr. Lawrence looked relieved, evidently taking the whole thing as a joke. "You hussy, how dare you talk in that way? Where's your respect for me and your proper bringing up? Bless the boys and girls, what torments they are, yet we can't do without them," he said, pinching her cheeks. Good humouredly. What is the word? What's this word? Do I need to see it? I suppose so. I think so. Go and bring that boy down to his dinner. Tell him it's all right, and advise him not to put on tragedy airs with his grandfather. I won't bear it. He won't come, sir. He feels badly because you didn't believe him when he said he couldn't tell. I think that shaking hurt his feelings very much. Oh, Jo tried to look pathetic, but must have failed, for Mr. Lawrence began to laugh, and she knew the day was won. "I'm sorry for that, and ought to thank him for not shaking me, I suppose. What the dickens does the fellow expect?" And the old gentleman looked a trifle ashamed of his own testiness. What a word. 14. "If I were you, I'd write him an apology, sir. He says he won't come down till he has one, and talks about Washington, and goes on in an absurd way. A formal apology will make him see how foolish he is, and bring him down quite amiable, I suppose so. Try it. He likes fun, and this way is better than talking. I'll carry it up and teach him his duty." Mr. Lawrence gave her a sharp look and put on his spectacles, saying, "Is this one?" "Yeah, well, I think I need to see it." "Well," saying slowly, "you are a sly puss, don't know, is this one, but I don't mind being managed by you and Beth. All right, let me have this one. And a little bit of... Okay, but I don't mind being managed by you and Beth. Here, give me a bit of paper and let us have done with this nonsense. The note was written in the terms which one gentleman would use to another after offering some deep insult. Joe dropped a kiss on the top of Mr. Lawrence's bald head and ran up to slip the apology under Laurie's door, advising him through the keyhole to be submissive, decorous, and a few other agreeable impossibilities. Finding the door locked again, she left the note to do its work, and was going quietly away when the young gentleman slid down the banisters, and waited for her at their bottom, saying with his most virtuous expression of countenance, "What a good fellow you are, Joe. Did you get blown up?" He added, laughing. No, he was pretty mild on the whole. I got it all round. Even you cast me off over there, and I felt just ready to go to the deuce, he began apologetically. Don't talk in that way. Turn over a new leaf and begin again, Teddy, my son. I keep turning over new leaves and spoiling them as I used to spoil my copybooks. And I make so many beginnings, there never will be an end, he said dolefully. What word? Go and eat your dinner. You'll feel better after it. Men always croak when they are hungry, and Joe whisked out at the front door after that. That's a label on my sect, answered Laurie, quoting Amy as he went to partake of humble pie dutifully with his grandfather, who was quite saintly in temper and overwhelmingly respectful in manner all the rest of the day. Everyone thought the matter ended and the little cloud blown over, but the mischief, I think, was done. For though others forgot it, Meg remembered. She never alluded to a certain person, but she thought of him a good deal, dreamed dreams more than ever, and once Joe, rummaging her sister's desk for stamps, found a bit of paper scribbled over with words Mrs. John broke. Whereat she ground tragically and cast it into the fire, feeling that Laurie's prank had hastened the evil day for her. Oh, I think there's something I don't know. We're at. Is this an old English? No, maybe. Chapter 22. Chapter 22. Pleasant Meadows. Like sunshine after storm, where the peaceful weeks which followed, the invalids improved rapidly, and Mr. March began to talk of returning early in the new year. Beth was soon able to lie on the study sofa all day, amusing herself with the well-beloved cats at first, and in time with dolls' sewing, which had fallen sadly behindhand. Her once active limbs were so stiff and feeble that Joe took her a daily airing about the house in her strong arms. Meg cheerfully blackened and burned her white hands, cooking delicate messes for the dear, while Amy, a loyal slave of the ring, celebrated her return by giving away as many of her treasures as she could prevail on her sisters to accept. As Christmas approached, the usual mistress began to haunt the house, and Joe frequently confused the family by proposing utterly impossible or magnificently absurd ceremonies in honor of this unusual Merry Christmas. Laurie was equally impractical and would have had bonfires, skyrockets, and triumphal, I think, triumphal arcs or arches. I think it's arches. Okay, arcs. All right, if he had had his own way. After many skirmishes and snubbings, the ambitious pair were considered effectually quenched and went about with flown faces, which were rather bleed. All right, let me highlight this one because it's a little bit harder to be pronounced. Rather bleed by explosions of laughter when the two got together. Several days of unusually mild weather, fitly unheard in a splendid Christmas Day. Alrighty, which were rather bleed by explosions of laughter when the two got together. Several days of unusually mild weather, fitly unshared. Okay, you shared. Is this a word? I have no idea. In a splendid Christmas Day, Hannah felt in her bones that it was going to be I don't know how to pronounce it, be an unusually fine day, and she proved herself a true prophetess. For every day and everything seemed bound to produce a grand success. To begin with, Mr. March wrote that he should soon be with them. Then Beth felt uncommonly well that morning, and being dressed in her mother's gift, a soft crimson merino wrapper, was borne in triumph to the window to behold the offering of Joe and Laurie. The unquenchables had done their best to be worthy of the name, for like elves, they had worked by night and conjured up a comical surprise. Out in the garden stood a stately snow maiden, crowned with holly, bearing a basket of fruit and flowers in one hand, a great roll of new music in the other, a perfect rainbow of Afghan around her chilly shoulders, and a Christmas carol issuing from her lips on a pink paper streamer. The young fro to Beth, God bless you, dear Queen Bess. My nothing you dismay. but health and peace and happiness be yours this Christmas day. Here is fruit to feed our, our busy bee, and flowers for her nose. Here is music for her piano, and a flan for her toes. A portrait of Joanna C. What's this one? B. Raphael number 2, who labored with great industry to make it fair and true. Okay, accept a ribbon red, I beg, for Madame Pereira's tale. Alright, a little bit. Okay, I'm going crazy today. Cream and okay, I don't know. Pereira's tale and ice cream made by lovely Peg and Mont plants in a pail. Their dearest love may make us laid within my breeze of snow. Accept it, and the Alpine maid from Laurie and from Joe. How Beth laughed when she saw it. How Laurie ran up and down to bring in the gifts, and what ridiculous speeches Joe made as she presented them. I'm so full of happiness that if Father was only here, I couldn't hold one drop more, said Beth, sighing with contentment as Joe cried her off to the study to rest after the excitement and to refresh herself with some of the delicious grapes the Jungfrau had sent her. I don't know, is it this one? So am I? Added Joe, slapping the pocket wherein reposed the long-desired Undyne and Centram. I'm sure I am, echoed Amy, poring over the engraved copy of the Madonna and Child which her mother had given her in a pretty frame. All right, I'm going to finish this page. Of course I am, cried Meg, something the silvery folds of her first silk dress, for Mr. Lawrence had insisted on giving it. How can I be otherwise? Said Mrs. March gratefully, as her eyes went from her husband's letter to Beth's smiling face, and her hand caressed the brooch made of grey and golden chestnut and dark brown hair, which the girls had just fastened on her breast. Now and then, in this workday world, things do happen in their delightful storybook fashion, and what a comfort it is. Half an hour after everyone had said they were so happy they could only hold one drop more, the drop came. Laurie opened the parlor door and popped his head in very quietly. He might just as well have turned as some result and uttered an Indian war whoop, for his face was so full of suppressed excitement, and his voice was so treacherously joyful that everyone jumped up, though he only said in a strange, breathless voice, "Here's another Christmas present for the March family." March, yeah, well, not for today. I'm done. I thought I'm going to read for an hour or two, but no, I can't.